All right, so hey, how
Hey,
are you doing?
I'm great.
You said you want a cappuccino, right?
Yep, that's perfect.
All right, Claire, it's Thanksgiving week.
Sure
What
is.
is one thing you are grateful for, thankful for?
Oh my goodness, I'm grateful that I can be home for Thanksgiving this year.
Home for
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
yeah,
So we were just talking. You said you typically were in Uganda for Thanksgiving. You got to
yeah.
come
There's
home.
one year I was able to come home in 2019.
So
but-
what were you doing in Uganda? For people who
So
don't know.
yeah, I was teaching at an international school, Christian international school, mostly teaching the kids of missionaries who served in Uganda, in that specific area, in the Jinja area. And so through the course of the 7 years that I was there, taught various subjects, various ages, but for the most part was teaching the middle school, early high school ages, and was teaching math and language arts. And then I was also the principal of the school for a couple of years. So
Wow.
yeah,
Principal.
yeah.
What was your favorite thing? I know this is going to be a big question. What was your favorite thing about teaching at the international school in Uganda?
Oh man, it was a really special school. It was cool to see God just really has still his hand on that school, and so it's just really neat to see him provide in ways that we couldn't have expected, whether it be in the students or the teachers or finances. He just really has his hand on it. It's cool. Cool things are happening there.
Nice. Yeah, cool. So you were there for how long?
7 years.
7 years, and then so that was a big decision, I'm sure, to leave
Yeah.
there and to come back home. So what led you to that decision?
Yeah, honestly, it was harder to choose to come back than it was to choose to go there in the first place. And it was really just God. That's that's the honest answer. I got to come home once a year and would support raise and visit people and all of that. And every time I'd be back, I'd be praying about the school year, a year ahead of time, kind of. So when I was back in the summer of 2023, I was praying about the current 2024-25 school year. Because I knew I'd be back for the 23-24 school year. So, yeah, so I was praying about it and just felt like it was time to come back. And I've thought that before, so I was not able to just kind of trust that, and talk to a few friends who I really trusted their wisdom and their heart for the Lord, and they just kept speaking the same truth into me, because one of the biggest things I was nervous about was finding a job. And I knew that I didn't want to be in the classroom, and I didn't feel like God was calling me back to the classroom. And so I was like, but then what would I do? Because all I've done is teach, And several people that I talked to were like, I don't think you need to know that yet. I think you just need to follow God's calling on your life right now and trust that he'll show you the rest of the path when it's time. Which was hard for me because I was like, I was kind of raised that you don't leave a job until you have a job, but this wasn't a traditional job, and so I just kept praying about it. And when I went back to Uganda, one of the things that always changed in the past when I thought it was time to leave was I would go back to Uganda and picture not being there in a year, and always felt like God was telling me it's not time, it's too soon. And when I went back in the fall of 2023, I didn't get that feeling. When I would picture being back, it felt like this is right, this is time. And so by the end of October of last year, I was able to tell all of my friends, colleagues, even my students and their families that I would be moving back in the summer of 2024. So I had a lot of time to tell them, which was such a gift, such a gift.
So it sounds like God placed a lot of people in your life that you go to when you need advice and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I feel like friendship is something that a lot of people obviously can relate to. They either feel like they have too many friends, not enough friends, maybe not the right friends. So how do you discern who are the right people that are able to speak into your book?
Yeah.
Pastor Dave talks about who's on your couch.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you discern that?
Which is funny because he was doing that series right when I moved back. And so I mentioned the big fear that I had about moving back was the job. And the other big fear I had was community, because in Uganda I had such a strong community. Because when you don't have extended family around you, you become one another's family, and had people who, thank you so much, who stood behind me and beside me in such such really trying circumstances and some of the hardest times of my life. And my family was also there, but not physically, So moving back, I was like, that was such a challenge. And then Pastor Dave was doing that series of Who's on Your Couch. And I think, it's going to look different. Couches are going to look different for different people, right? And in different seasons of life. Just because someone's on your couch for one season doesn't mean that they're there forever, And so I think for me, it's just kind of being open to who has God put in front of me, and not in my head saying, well, they're only here for a season. Especially living where I lived, it was very transient. And so it could get really easy to be like, well, I'm not going to pour into this person because they're only in Uganda for 6 months, and, and kind of get cynical that way. And instead being like, this person's here and God's put them in front of me, and I'm going to pour into them, and who knows how they might pour into me.
That's great. Yeah. I heard this phrase, be where your feet are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about like looking into the future at the finish line, but it's just about like, look around, see like where God has placed you, why he's placed you there, and who God's placed around you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's kind of what you're saying, like
Absolutely.
you had to do. So like now your feet are not in Uganda anymore.
Right, yeah.
Your feet are at Fairview Village Church and at TVN, the Village Norristown.
Yeah.
So like, talk a little bit about what that journey's been like since you got there, the way God's moving there and stuff like that.
Even the way that the job came about was like God's fingerprints were, all over that as well. And, because I like I said, I made that decision in October of last year, and then didn't know where I would be working, told my students. And of course, one of the first questions my students asked me was, well, what are you going to do for a job? And I was like, I don't know. God hasn't told me yet, And so they were praying right along with me in that whole process. And so at the end of January of 2024, of this year, Kayla reached out to me and she was like, hey, you mentioned that you're thinking about moving back this summer. We're restructuring some things at the church. Would you be interested in hearing about a possible job opportunity? And so from that conversation, it was a 4-month process of, FaceTiming and having all these conversations about, what that could look like if it was the right fit, if it was God's calling on my life. And through every step of that, I was sharing it with my students and was able to share with them what God was doing. So they got to see me go from, I'm just taking this step in faith and not knowing where God's going to take it, to, hey, look what God's done. Look how he's provided this opportunity. And that was really cool because God didn't have to do that, He really didn't owe me anything. So it was really cool to be able to share that with them and for them to see God's hand all over that. And so now being back, it's been, I grew up at Fairview, and it's been kind of weird in some ways to be back here and be an adult, because I haven't lived in this area since I was 18, and so it's been a little while. But it's been really cool too. It's been amazing to see how the church has just flourished, in the time that I've been gone. And it's an ever-present reminder that God's hand isn't just in one place, right? We serve an omnipresent God for a reason. And his hand was very much on the school I was at in Uganda, and it's very much on the church. It's very much on TVN and what we're all doing for his kingdom. So, yeah. Yeah,
that's awesome. So do you have anything coming up at TVN that you feel like people should know about? Anything that God's been doing specifically at the ministry? Yeah,
it's so cool. We're growing. Just last week I had to start a wait list for one of our class sizes because we just don't have the physical space, and there's a need, And so we're in conversation about how we can change that so that we're not having to have a wait list, but can have the space for the kids and the families who need it. So it's cool to see it growing. The teen ministry is growing, and it's really strong this year. And we have incredible volunteers who are working both with the K-5 program and with the teen program, and their hearts are in it. And it's amazing. Like, I was able to step into that. That's not work that I've done. A lot of these volunteers have been here for way before me, even a lot of them before Kayla. And so they're just like wholeheartedly into what God's doing at TVN. And of course, coming up, we have our Advent campaign, which is exciting, and I'm excited to share more about what God's doing and the opportunities for people in the church to get more involved with TVN through that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So your encouragement is get to church during Advent.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because there's great ways that everyone can get involved somehow, and
they're going to be able to hear stories of people from people who have been there. I know, I think one of the stories is Angie.
Yeah.
Angie Garcia, who
Yeah.
just got baptized a couple weeks ago. And I think that story's going to play sometime during Advent.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. God's doing big things for sure.
Yeah,
it's
that's
cool.
awesome.
It's cool to see.
Yeah.
It's exciting to be a part of, you know. Yeah.
100%. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
Thanks
and
for
I hope
letting
the
me.
coffee's good
I haven't
enough.
even had a chance to sip it yet.
All
Excited.
right. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you.